All right, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Trans Am. Got ourselves cleaned up in the garage, went over and got the cribbing that Dad made, and ready to get this thing jacked up on the cribbing so we can get to that cross member, so that way this engine and trans can be officially bolted in where it needs to be. Now, one thing I want to address real quick before we jack this thing up. If you can tell, let's see where this thing's at. If you see our level here, it's not level. It's close, but the that transmission needs to come down just a hair in the rear. So whenever I make this cross member, we will take that into consideration, get that carburetor plane on the intake nice and level, and then that's where we should be. So we got a little leeway with it. But anyway, just wanted to address that real quick. So let's go ahead and get this thing up on the cribbing, and then we will go from there. I'm probably not going to get to the cross member itself tonight, but I at least want to get this thing up in the air so it's ready when I do have time. And there we have it. Man, guys, I'm spoiled with that lift at the shop. I'm sweating. That's, whew. Don't miss jacking cars up that high. Anyway, there it is. We're ready. So I think I'm gonna finish putting my tools away another night. And the rest of the parts, the old parts for the Trans Am, and we will be ready to start on the cross member debacle. So anyway, next clip we will be, oh, just a second. There we go. Had to kill a giant spider. We ain't having that. So anyway, yeah, next clip we'll be starting on modifying the cross member. So look forward to that. Until then, I'm gonna go get a shower and something to drink. All right, guys, next day, and I'm laying out here on the garage floor. Since we got the car up on the cribbing, I went through and shot backed out the entire underside of the car. Not perfect, obviously, but I don't think a lot of you guys have seen under this thing. If you remember back to the first or second video, I kind of lightly held the phone under here, but this can just kind of show you how solid the car is. Just pretty freaking crazy. I mean, just obviously a bunch of surface rust. Actually, I wouldn't even really say a bunch, but right there where that floor pan's kind of collapsed, there's a little rust hole about the size of my thumb. And then the rear sub rails and everything and tail pan are perfect. But anyway, so this is kind of what we're dealing with up here. So like I told you, the engine and trans does have to come down a little bit. So if I can basically just cut this mount off and drop it down and then re-weld it in and shape it, it should put us right where we need to be. So pretty stoked on that, because as you can tell, it's sitting almost where it needs to be, right on the mount. So like I said, it's just high enough to where it's sitting on the mount, but you can't get the stud through it. So essentially we need to, like I said, basically cut this bracket off all the way around, relocate it. And I think there's enough room that the transmission won't hit the cross member, obviously. So we're gonna get this thing supported with a jack and pop this guy back out and do some cutting and welding. Saw me finish cutting it. Turned out pretty clean. So exactly what I wanted. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time. I'm gonna clean all this rust and dirt, grease and crap off this thing so we can then in turn set this back in the car, and I'll kind of position this where I want it and then modify it and then hopefully put it back in again, make sure I'm happy with where it's at, and then we'll break the old welder out, tack it in place, pull it back out, finish weld it, yada, 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 all the good stuff. So anyway, let me clean this thing up and we'll check in after that. As you can tell, I got it almost perfectly level. Before it was just over that left black line. Now I've almost got it dead centered, and it's to the point that the mount almost touches the cross member, but I got just enough room, I think, to drop it down. May have to elongate the mount holes a little bit on the driver and passenger side just to scoot it back a skosh. But other than that, I think we'll be all right to go ahead and size this thing, or place this thing and weld it in and then elongate those holes, and I think we're gonna have us a transmission cross member. All right guys, had it mocked up under there. Went ahead and just threw a couple small tacks on the bottom side. So now we'll be able to weld this thing in. So had it sitting right up against the mount and it seems to be all right. So I think I'll just go from here, and then we'll probably trim some of that excess off at the bottom just to clean it up a little bit. And then hopefully we'll be reinstalling this bad boy. Product. Ain't no professional welder, but that ought to be all right. Even trimmed off the little bottom triangle pieces. Got some tacks at the bottom. The couple nasty ones are when I was laying underneath the car and it was spitting and sputtering because of some nasty dirt that was still kind of impregnated in it. But the area where I cleaned it up, good, welded great. So yeah, got a little bit on each corner, side, and top at the bottom. And then obviously all this through the top. So I'm gonna continue to kind of clean this thing up just a little bit, dust that with some paint, and we're ready to mount this sucker. So hopefully the next clip, you'll see me throwing it in there. Sorry, I bumped the camera during the time lapse. Oh, but there we have it. So you're ready to throw a nut on that, and I got to get some new bolts for the outer mount portion. But yeah, we're in good shape. So I'm pretty stoked. So now we are ready to move on to measuring for a drive shaft, as well as cutting the floor for the shifter and mounting the hump on the interior. So we're in really good shape. So I'm gonna kind of, easy for me to say. I am filthy, so I am going to clean up, and then we will check back in when we are ready to measure for the drive shaft, move forward with the floor and that hump, and then actually getting the shifter in there. So that was the biggest deal I needed to get done. So I am beyond happy. Like I said, got to get some bolts for the 4 outer mount holes, because the original ones were shot. 2 of the nuts were all rounded off, so no big deal. I'm gonna go under there, check over my work real quick, and we'll pick back up. We're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, what's up? Left off, we were getting the cross member all modified and whatnot, so did a little work off camera here, so kind of show you guys where I'm at. So obviously we know we got the transmission up in there. We had to modify the cross member. I think I mentioned this in the previous video, but I put the shifter on as mock-up, and they come way over here, and it puts it way up by my steering wheel, because if you look, somebody re-welded this thing. They actually cut it off from down here and put it up on top, and then welded. So we're gonna cut this thing back off, put it way back over here down, and re-weld it where it's supposed to be. And that should put my shifter exactly where it needs to be. So let me grab my light here, and let's roll under here. Show you guys what I got. I'm gonna get my exhaust out of the way here soon, but there is the cross member all done and finished. So turned out good. Got plenty of room. Everything's sitting right where I need it. I also measured for a drive shaft, and I actually don't even have to shorten this one. All I need to do is get new U-joints thrown in it, and we'll be good to go. So like I said, as of right now, I got the hump ready to, like I told you guys, I'm just going to do nut zerts and bolt that hump in, seam seal around it for now. Not looking to get too crazy, but we really need to fix that thing. So I think that's going to be first on my list here. So I'm going to get inside there, cut that thing off so we can prep it to re-weld it. Okay, we went ahead and got this thing chopped off, got it beveled since it's fairly thick. And you can look and see here, it's supposed to be flat like that on top, and you can see the area they originally cut it. So it's actually supposed to be over like this, which then in turn, here's the grooves to mount the shifter, and it should put my shifter right over where I need it to be. So that being said, we're gonna get this thing all blown off and cleaned up, and we're gonna mock this thing up, get it held in place, throw some tacks on it, be sure I like it, weld it in, then we'll be ready to finish up the hump itself. All right, guys, got her welded up. Pretty happy with it, got it as straight as I could, but I still wasn't pleased. The shifter was still really far that way, and you know, I'm no expert on these cars, but I don't think that is the original style shifter, because that is a aftermarket Hurst Competition Plus. So basically what I did is I kind of figured out where I wanted it, and I chucked that shifter up in the vise and put a big pipe on it and just kind of lightly tweaked it over. You can kind of see it has like a little right there in it, and then it comes out, and man, it looks way better. So now we can go through all the gears, grab reverse, and you're not hitting the steering wheel. So I'm pretty pleased. And obviously these are just for mock-up. I will get the proper bolts when that time comes. I did find an original shift knob, because if you guys look, this aftermarket one I bought, threaded it on, and then as you tighten it, the outer sleeve just has broken loose from the inner portion. So I think I'm gonna try to go on Marketplace and see if that original knob's still on there and try to score it. But anyway, moving on. I did get new. If you guys have been following the build, you might remember, I think it was like the first or second episode of this car. Took the cross member out, and it had a conglomerate of different hardware with it. One of them got rounded off completely. So anyway, got the hardware I wanted with lock nuts. So I'm gonna get up under there. We're gonna throw those in, and then this thing will officially be a full 404 speed, bolted in and done. So I've already measured for a drive shaft. I think I mentioned that already. So now that we got that thing cut, re-welded, and the shifter positioned where I want it, I think we're good to go. We'll bolt this cross member in real quick and keep plugging away. Cross member is all bolted in with stainless hardware. So this thing is officially in there. So got it all bolted up, tied at the mount, tied at the cross member, got our shifter modified. So now everything works properly. So should have filmed it beforehand on how bad this was, but now if you look, I got plenty of room in neutral. So we got first, second, third, fourth, and reverse ain't wanting to go in there right now, but as you can tell, when you hit that detent for reverse, you got plenty of room you know, nowhere even near the steering wheel now. There we go. There's up and reverse. Got plenty of room. I'm stoked. So now that my face is all filthy from having constant crap fall on it, we are ready to mount the hump. So I think you can see I've already got all my holes drilled. I've got my outline marked, so we'll be ready to drill holes and add the nut certs, and then should be able to bolt that thing in place. And then be ready to mount the boot and all that. And I'll be needing to paint this insert black, so we'll have to get it out and then go from there. And I'm not sure if this is Camaro or what, because Camaro and Trans Am / Firebird do mount differently. And I believe these style here are Camaro. I could be wrong. I don't know the 8081 Trans Am's Firebirds that well, but this is way different than my car mounted / mounts. So, and it doesn't have the pocket, which I'm assuming that's because this module. So I may still use the console, may modify it, haven't decided, but at least the insert's good. And I'm gonna try to find a black specific Firebird / Trans Am 4-speed console. So I may even try to find that over at Norwalk this year at the Pontiac Nationals. They always have the big swap meet. Not sure if we're going just yet, but it's worth a try. So anyway, hopefully this next clip won't be today, but we'll be getting into marking, drilling some more holes, adding nut certs, and mounting that 4-speed hump. Okay, had a little time lapse going there, but ended up accidentally stopping it. But nut certs are all in. Everything lines up great. So there she blows. That's where she'll be. Well, it's not wanting to stay put now. Just ran out of 1/4 hardware, so I'll have to get some of that. And then that is done. So we'll be ready to start on the frame mount for the clutch stuff, as well as all the engine accessories. So probably need to go get my radiator, fan shroud, some of that good stuff, and get that ready to go in. But I may go ahead and start on this frame mount for the Z-bar, because I don't think that's going to be very fun, because that inner fender well comes down all the way in there and such. So see what we need to do to get access to that, and then we'll catch you guys up from there. Time lapse that we tapped those screws or screw holes, threaded those in, loosely mounted the Z-bar mount for the frame mount portion, and then if you look down in there, squeeze the Z-bar in, got it all nut and bolted in. That's good. I just hooked up the clutch rod, which is dang near impossible to see, but that's all hooked up, so it's time to get underneath, do the adjustment rod, and return spring and all that fun stuff. So I'll see what we get into there, and we will check back in after that. Okay, some time has passed. We've been, or I should say I've been doing, well, my dad's been helping me do some stuff around the house, putting up a privacy fence, and father-in-law's been helping do a bunch of stuff with that as well. So I've been busy, haven't been out here working, but we last left off getting the clutch stuff all functional, and I left off wanting to do the adjustment rod and return spring. Now I got the adjustment rod in place, but I wasn't sure where the return spring was supposed to go to. So had my good friend Kyle sent me a picture of his original 4-speed car and where the return spring tab is located on the frame. So we are going to work on getting that done. Nathan got the drive shaft rebuilt for me because I despise doing U-joints. So had him do those for me. It's ready to go. Also, we will get the tail shaft seal put in the transmission, and that'll probably end off this video. So I'm going to get under here, check out what I got going on, where that tab's going to go, and then I'll pick up and let you guys know where we're at and show you what we got going on. We're rolling around under the car. And as you can see, got the adjustment rod put in. Obviously nothing's tight yet until I go to adjust this thing properly. By looking at the pictures of his car, if you see this hole right up here on the bracket, that's where our return spring will go to. So I've just got to make a tab real quick. Should be pretty simplistic. And then before I throw it in, after I show you guys the bracket I make, I'll throw a picture on here of what an original car should look like versus mine, and then we will go from there. And then after that, should be ready to replace this seal, and then throw the drive shaft in it, attach the return spring, and hopefully that'll do it for this video. And then we'll do a little overview. It's got a couple new parts that we ended up needing. So anyway, let's get to it. All right, guys, see if I can find my little piece here. So I had a leftover bed frame, like a small bed rail, like connecting area, and it had another one of these holes out here on the end. So I kind of did my best off of the picture he sent me to get the same width. Same is what will mount to the frame, and there's what our clutch return spring will go to. Tried to make it as close to factory as I could. So it's almost done drying. And then once that's ready, we will thread that thing in place. I even have a 3/8 self-tapping bolt, which is pretty cool. I had these left over from the 55 project, and we're going to use one of those and see how that works. I've already started it, and I think it's going to do just fine. So let's let this thing dry, and we'll slide up under there, get this thing bolted in, hook up the return spring, and that'll be awesome because then the clutch will be completely done minus the final adjustment. And then we can move on to getting that seal changed and get the drive shaft installed. Okay, ended up having to shorten the bolt just a little bit, but there it is. So we should have a fully, properly functioning clutch. And I will go ahead and insert the picture of what the original one looks like right now, and then we should be able to jump back and start on this seal. Fresh seal. So now we can get my U-bolt stuff out and get that stuff cleaned up. We'll slip this bad boy in, bolt her up, and we will be good to go. Pretty stoked. So yeah, I'm gonna get that hardware cleaned up and then we'll check back in. All right, got the hardware all cleaned up. And here it is. And I know I mentioned having to shorten the drive shaft in the previous videos, but oops, when I measured it, I mean, heck, you can see where the drive shaft used to ride in a factory 70 or I'm an idiot, I'm thinking of the 55 Chevy. Well, actually, I'm not, but this is the original drive shaft to the car itself, and this yoke is for a Turbo 400, which is the big yoke, fine spline, which the 350s are as well, but the splines are a little different. It's just the yoke size is a lot smaller for the Turbo 350s, and this was the one out of the 70 Bonneville that we got the engine out of for the 55. And you can actually see the wear line where it used to ride, so it was actually a little deeper in that car, but I got just over an inch of plunge room. So that means I got plenty of yoke riding on the bushing and the seal and such, so we're good there. Yeah, that's plenty of room. Brand new U-joints. Sorry about the old crusty mufflers here. Cleaned up the straps and hardware, so those are all in there and tight. And I thought I was going to go ahead and end off the video there, but I forgot that we have some of this stuff. So I'm going to set you guys up in there. Maybe we'll slap some of this stuff on, then we'll call it done. Got it all installed. I was going to use either some sheet metal screws or drill those bigger and through bolt this thing in, but I don't know if you could tell in the time lapse, I actually held this whole piece of metal part of the floor up by the inner boot and this outer boot, and nothing moved. So I don't feel like there's any reason to hold it down. I mean, literally you're just doing that right there. So I think it'll be fine, and God forbid if I ever have to do it, zip these out and call it done. And I know a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, you didn't weld that in, blah, blah, blah. And my reasoning is, for one, that's way easier. And two, if I were to ever sell this car in the future and someone wanted to revert it back to an automatic car, you could, and make a nice patch panel for the floor, weld it in, smooth it out, and you're not having to cut a whole bunch of stuff back out. And honestly, I think it's nice being able to remove it for just straight up working on the car. I mean, get to the linkage, all that stuff. So literally, as you saw in the time lapse, buzz these bolts right out, comes right off, do what you got to do, plop her back on there, zip it back down, carpet covers it up, and you're good to go. And if you really wanted to, you could actually do a little bit of like seam sealer around that, and then if you ever had to get back in there, zip the bolts out, and you might have to pry it up a little bit. But I think for what we're doing, covering it with the carpet is going to be just fine. So let's see here. Let's do a little test. Uh-oh, don't have a seat. So clutch is in, first, second, third, fourth, and reverse. There we go. And clutch pedal springs back really nice. How awesome is that? So there we go. She is officially a 4-speed. And I don't think I'm going to run that chrome bezel, because obviously the carpet goes over, and then these cars have a center console with the plastic inlay, and all that gets covered up. So there's literally, I think that's for cars that don't have a console. So probably a Camaro would be my guess, because I think all the Firebird Trans Ams had a center console. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but at least obviously for sure my car is going to be a center console car, so there's no reason in running that. I didn't really realize it came with the kit, but whatever, it's pretty cheap. Don't care, I'll hold it in case I ever want to use it. But anyway, there we go, check it out. Okay, now that we got that stuff all knocked out, I think that's going to do it for this video. So once again, there you go, 4-speed, stoked. And I've already been working on some other stuff. I think I filmed a little bit on it. I have another video on a Camaro at the shop that should be out soon. And as you can tell, getting some stuff done on the front of the engine. So look forward to that in a future Trans Am video. A little something else I wanted to show off real quick before we get off here. I got the original radiator out, and I thought the thing was in pretty good shape, obviously for its age. But the more I started looking at it, I mean, you can tell from here all the damage to the fins, which that's not major, but right there shows me there's probably a leak. Probably one through here. And I was looking at one elsewhere. It might have been on the other side. But we had some major damage down there. And some of these are pretty deep as well. And I actually put some water through this thing to clean it out, and it wasn't super dirty, but as I dumped it out and let it sit, it was leaking, and it wasn't leaking out of the outlet. So my guess would be it's bad. Anyway, any of you guys that are into these second gens, you need to hop on Second Gen Graveyard. That guy carries everything for the 70 to 81s. Super awesome. He always ends up having good deals. Probably the best prices for second gen stuff. Pretty much carries everything you could need. And he had a big sale over the 4th of July. And he had a cold case aluminum radiator for a good price. And I thought by the time I'd end up repairing this one and going through all that, plugging it off because it's for an automatic, which not a big deal, I'd go with the cold case. My buddy got one for his car, painted it flat, or not, like satin black like factory. You cannot tell a difference. They are identical. And I got it for a manual, so I don't have to worry about trans cooler lines, so that's awesome. So we will be opening that up in the next video and probably prepping to get it installed in the car. So pretty stoked on that. Anyway, yeah, I think we made some really good headway in this video. Hopefully in the next one, we will be doing engine accessories, putting oil in the thing, gear oil in the trans, sifting through some wiring, and maybe doing a first fire up. I don't know. We will see. That would be awesome to have for the next video. But once again, we will see what we get done. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this one. And for you guys wanting to 4-speed swap your cars, hopefully these help you out and it's not too difficult. So anyway, we'll see you guys in the next video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we're out.